Hello and welcome back to the channel, everybody. Um, it has been a year, literally. 2023 is over. And you all know what that means. It is time for the January TBR and December wrap up. So, if you guys watched my last reading vlog, I did literally a reading sprint. I read 3 books in less than 24 hours because I was so close to my goal of 50 books for the year. And so I read so much in December, which I didn't realize until I was writing them all down for this video. I think with the mix of like having the Christmas break off and just all this time between Christmas and New Year's, I was able to read so much. So much so that like books that I read at the beginning of the month, I completely forgot that I read them in December. So we're gonna start with the beginning of December and then go all the way to obviously we're gonna talk about the books in the order that I read them. Thank you. So starting with I have her right here. I went to Barnes and I picked up a copy of Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I don't know when I got this. Oh, you know what? I was buying my friends books for Christmas and I saw this super cute copy. I don't remember if it was at Barnes or at um Target, but I picked up a copy because, as those of you who continuously watch the channel know, I am obsessed with this book, but I read it on Kindle Unlimited. So I got myself a physical copy of Heartless by Marissa Meyer. But this is kind of a spin-off of an Alice in Wonderland retelling. It is a like the origin story of the Queen of Hearts. Um, and I talked this book to death. So for those of you that have not seen my videos before, it's a retelling and an origin story of the Queen of Hearts. It like starts off with this girl who's gonna end up being the Queen of Hearts, and she's like such a sweetie. All she wants to do is like bake and live her life. And it kind of shows how she degenerates into this like terrible evil woman. And it was just so whimsical. The writing was really easy to read. I read through it so quickly. It does have a touch of romance, so that was really nice as well. And I just love this book. So Heartless by Marissa Meyer. I give this, I want to say like a 4.5, 4.75. Y'all know I don't typically rate books. Um, but I do when I write them on Goodreads leave a rating, so I have a general idea. It wasn't a 5-star read, but it was like really close. Then I read The Santa Suit by Mary Kay Andrews. This was a Christmas little novella. And it was cute. It was like I think I gave it like a 3. Am I bringing back ratings, you guys? Am I gonna bring back ratings? I don't know. Whatever. It was like I gave it a 3. I would recommend it if you wanted to read like a cute little Christmas thing, but it wasn't like the best book I've ever read. Um, but you guys know how it goes. Like this girl moves to a small town and she has a cute little neighbor. In this case, it's her realtor, and there's a Santa suit, which is like the magical realism element of it. And there's some romance in more ways than one. And so I thought it was cute. I liked it. Then I read Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. This follows so the first book is Things We Never Got Over question mark, and that follows Knox and Naomi. And then this book, Things We Hide from the Light, follow Nash, who's Knox's brother and the chief of police in Knockout, and Lena, which is one of Knox's friends and now turned into like one of the girlies in Knock 'em Out. And she is like this really guarded, has trust issues, like literally can kick butt type of lady who has like a little bit of there are secrets in her past, but not like secrets like, oh my god, you're a terrible person. More like secrets like, I've never told anybody this and I don't think I ever will because it just feeds into like the insecurity and the core of my being. And Nash, who at the end of the first book, because this is all an interconnected series, um, at the end of the first book went through like a very traumatic incident, so he's still recovering from that. And they have a very slow burn romance trying to learn how to like trust each other and grow as people. Um, this was good. However, it was not as good as the first one in my opinion. And also I think that this book was a lot more like this is the theme of the book. This is the lesson I'm trying to get the characters to learn in like very plain text, which I didn't love. I just like more when it's like, oh, I realize what the message was because of this transformational thing that the characters have gone through or like through their character development, and it's kind of like implied This I felt like it was like literally written like this is what I'm supposed to be gathering from this book. So it wasn't my favorite. We'll talk about this in a second, but I'm just started the third book in this series, and so I'm hoping that it doesn't continue this way. Um, but these books are, I want to say, like 530 pages. So obviously, I like them enough to continue reading them, and I would recommend them to other people. I think it's a good series. Um, but it's just like not my favorite romance. Then I read Christmas Presents by Tara Dewitt. This is a Christmas novella, and it is three storylines based on the characters from Funny Feelings, Rooted, or Rootbound. I don't recall what that one's called, and The Co-op, which are Tara Dewitt's other books. And I just thought it was cute. I wanted to read something cute, something Christmassy. We were trying to stack on the books for my reading goal, but I also wanted to see like what Meyer and Farley were like in the real world, so to speak. So this was really cute, and this book actually got me interested enough in the couple from I Rooted or Rootbound. I'm sorry, I can't remember what it's called. But I'll put obviously the image here for you guys. And so I think I'm gonna read that book because I enjoyed them so much from the little tidbit that I got from Christmas Presents. Then I read Two Twisted Crowns. Oh, which I actually have here. I read Two Twisted Crowns, which is a duology, and it is the second book after One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. By Rachel Gillig. Um, I'll say right now, I preferred One Dark Window to Two Twisted Crowns, just because I think that the fantasy element was a lot more apparent in One Dark Window, and not in the sense, obviously this is a full fantasy. However, this is more of the dark fantasy, which is what the series is. It's like a gothic dark fantasy. And this was more of like the riddles and discovery and like not higher stakes, because I would say the stakes are like pretty equal. If anything, the second book has higher stakes than the first. But I just felt more entrenched in the world in the first book than I did in the second book. That being said, this is a very good second and final novel. A lot of series do it wrong and kind of ruin the series in the second book, but this was really good. This is also dual POV, which the first one is not. And I think that really added a lot to the storyline. However, I did think the three point of views are from Elizabeth, who's the single point of view in the first book, Raven, who is like a secondary character, but like in this book, he's more of the main character. And then a side character from the first book, Elm, also has a major point of view in this storyline as well. I liked Elizabeth's and Elm's point of views. I didn't think Raven's point of view was necessary, honestly. I think that maybe they could have just added Raven's point of view towards the end where his point of view becomes more important. But I think in the beginning it was like, why am I reading his point of view? There's no need. With um there is a little bit of a romance in the first one, although it's very, very, very much a subplot. There is a romance in this one that takes more priority and actually does a lot to move the storyline along. And I think that the way that they used the magic from the first book and kind of crafted it into this other sense of like this is what the magic was intended for, but this is what the magic does in the wrong hands. They really expanded upon that in the second book, so I really liked that. But again, that being said, it was good. I think because I read them back to back, I was like just all caught up in the hype and super excited about it. But with that all being said, it was a good series. I would definitely recommend it if you're wanting to venture into like the dark fantasy um genre. And it was really, 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 really well written, really easy to get through. Um, but overall, it was like a 3-5. Yeah, like a 3-5 series for me. Then I listened to, well, I listened and read simultaneously The Echo of Old Books by Barbara Davis. I, to be completely honest with you, only downloaded this because it had the audio and I wanted to listen to something while I drove um, up to Central Florida where my parents live for the holidays. This book starts off so slow and honestly kind of boring because the plot of it all is that this woman is a she like rebinds books and like has a bookshop, whatever. And she comes across these two books, but she can feel essentially like the emotions of the people who either wrote them or owned them, um like their previous owners, when she like touches the books. And so she comes across these two books that are like no author, no publisher written, whatever, but their echoes are like so intense that she gets really wrapped into like trying to figure out who these books belong to, what the story is about, blah blah blah. Her point of view in the beginning of the book is so boring to me and honestly annoying. But once they get into the storyline and like the portion of the plot that involves the characters within the books that she found, the two books that she found follow another couple's romance, so it's a dual timeline, technically a dual timeline romance. Um, and it is so juicy, so good. Like basically the characters in the books that she found have like they both feel like the other person betrayed them. So she's trying to figure out like who actually betrayed who, what's the truth, who owns these books, is this real, is this made up, like if it's real, who are these people, can I find them, like what is the resolution of all of this, blah blah blah. And the original one is based like what, pre World War II. So the girl who owns the bookshop is based, I think, in the 70s, the late 70s, early 80s, and then the books that she finds are based in like pre World War II. So I think like the 30s and 40s. It has all of the dates in there for y'all to see it, but this ended up being much better. It definitely was like a trust the process kind of read, and I think I would give it a 3.5, 3.75. I gave it a 4 on Goodreads, and thinking back on it, I like walked it back a little bit. But it was really good. If you listen to the audiobook, the man is British, so that kind of gives some variety. It's not so monotone. But yeah, I liked it. It was a good read. Then I listened to a girl called, oh, you know what? This is not in order, I just realized, because I read Two Twisted Crowns after I listened to Echo of Old Books. I was like reading them simultaneously. We're gonna assume that for the most part these are in the right order. Then I listened to A Girl Called Samson by Amy Harmon. This is a Revolutionary War historical fiction about a woman who she basically pulls a Mulan. If you guys watch my other vlogs, she pulls a Mulan. She wants to join the fight. She does it, and like it details her experience before, during, and after the war. I usually don't like historical fiction, but this point of view made it really tolerable for me. I definitely learned a lot about that time period and like the politics of it, um, in a way that I wouldn't expect, and it was actually really engaging for me. And I listened to this book. It was a really great listen. The narrator does a super good job um of adding like life into the story, so I really appreciated that. And I don't know, I just thought it was an interesting perspective. It's not something I would usually pick up. I again downloaded this for the same reason I downloaded Echo of Old Books. I wanted something to listen to, and I had heard that this book is really good. I listened to the What We Said podcast, and Chelsea, I think her Instagram is like at Chelsea Jade, I think. She highly recommended this book, and I just thought it was a really interesting and unique perspective for this kind of historical fiction, because obviously usually it's told from the perspective of the men. And I feel like this way you really got like the war experience, but also like the burden almost that it put on the woman in that time period, and like the intense, just like the intensity of the entire situation of like sending your sons off to war, or like being part of the war, and like I don't know, just all of it was very interesting. I will say towards the end of the book there is a little bit of like subplot of romance, kind of. There's like a very tiny subplot of romance, more in the sense of like she feels obligated to be married, like more in the sense of like the obligation of marriage in that time period. But there's a little bit of like I don't know how to say this without spoiling it, but it's just like the person that she ends up in a relationship with, there is an age gap, and like their circumstances, like how they came across meeting each other, like knowing each other, I found kind of like super icky. if this was like if this happened in the real world, I'd be like, that's gross, and that's really like maybe he should not have done that. But in the context of the book, and maybe in just the context of the time period, that was more normalized. And so I guess it was fine, but I was kind of just like, this doesn't sit right with me. So just be mindful of that if you read that. And then the last, oh, sorry, not the last. Then I read Normal People by Sally Rooney. I have it right here. I said this in my other vlog. This is a general fiction of two people, which let me know why it took me forever to realize that these are their faces on the cover. I I don't know, I just thought it was like swoopy lines like, "Hello, why don't you just use your eyeballs for 6 seconds? Clearly I need new glasses." But anyway, this details a couple basically throughout when they met until like a few years post grad, I want to say. They met in high school and then a few years post university, and they're based in Ireland, and it just kind of shows their relationship and just like the intricacies and the vulnerabilities that come with like knowing someone so intimately and intensely. And both of the characters struggle with kind of like anxiety, depression, so just seeing that mindset in themselves and like the social anxiety that they experience, and like almost the insecurity that you develop from like liking somebody so much that it like makes you feel feelings that you've never felt, which can cause like an insecurity or like a confusion. It's just like it really just felt like I was reading somebody's diary. I will say, Sally Rooney does not write with what are these things called? Quotation marks. That was difficult for me in the beginning, but once you understand the characters' personalities, it's very easy to distinguish who's talking and when. But she also does use like other signifiers like he said, she said, whatever. So it's not too difficult. So if that's what's putting you off from reading Sally Rooney, literally like get over it. It's gonna be fine. Um, but yeah, I really, really love this. I think it was Sally Rooney does something that I've never read before, and I felt so like I said, I felt like I was reading somebody's diary. Like I just felt so intimately connected with these characters, and like that I was just seeing through their eyes and looking into their lives in a way that I've never read before. And so I really, really appreciated her writing style, and I definitely want to read more from her in the future. I gave that a 3.75, maybe a 4, because I loved her style of writing, but the plot itself was like, eh, it's very much like day in the life. And that's how it's going to be when you track any relationship over time. There's going to be like the mundanity of it. Um, but there really isn't like any stakes in all of it. And the side plots that develop never really, like, they kind of just like the story moves on, and those things get, the sidebars just get pushed to the side and are kind of like disappeared forever. It doesn't really delve into any of the things that go on in their personal lives outside of their relationship with each other. So, Normal People by Sally Rooney. And then finally, I read The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. This follows a woman who was previously incarcerated from a young age, and she just got out of prison not too long ago. And so she is trying to land a job. You don't know why she was imprisoned in the beginning of the book. Um, and there is something kind of like off about her employer that she can't quite discern, doesn't really know if she's justified in feeling this like anxiety and like uneasiness about her employer. Um, and you don't find out any of that till like the middle of the book, part 2 of the book, because the book is split up in 3 parts. Um, but this story was so captivating. It was so easy to read. I literally breezed through it. I think the book takes what, like 7 hours? I think I read it in like 5 or less. Freida McFadden's writing is very like we're getting to the point, and things that I thought, this is one of those books where it's like you read something and you think, oh yeah, whatever, no big deal, just like I don't understand why she gave us that detail, whatever, and it comes back around later and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't see it. um but yeah, this ended up taking a turn that I never could have expected. Well, that's not true. There are two twists. The first one I expected immediately, and the second one I did not expect at all. So I think this is really good, really well written. I gave it a 4. I think in my other video I gave it like a 4.5, 4.75. Um, however, again, once I kind of was like out of the like, oh my gosh, that was such a good book immediacy of having read it, I walked back a little because I know that I've read more intriguing mystery thrillers. I think for me personally, I love when there's like a very intricate, very like all of the details are a web that then connect to this one thing type of mystery thriller, and I love having multiple point of views, multiple characters, all of these things. And so that's just my preference. and that's why I gave it a 4. But it was really, really good. I would highly recommend it if you're interested in getting into the mystery thriller genre, or just have you been thinking about reading Freddie McFadden in general. I definitely, definitely highly recommend that. And now we're gonna quickly bounce through. The problem with these videos is that I always think they're gonna be short, and then I can never shut up. We're going to bounce into my January TBR. So, I, right now, like I said earlier, am reading the third book in the Knock 'em Out trilogy, which is Things We Left Behind, and this by Lucy Score. And this follows the characters Sloane and Lucian. Lucian is Knox and Nash's best friend, and Sloane is like basically Naomi's best friend. But they have like a past, but nobody knows what their past actually entails. Nobody knows why they like fell apart, but they basically hate each other's guts and nobody really knows why. So we're figuring that out in this book. Um, I'm highly anticipating this because I think it's gonna be, obviously they hate each other, so it's enemies to lovers, and that's my favorite trope. Other than Grumpy Sunshine. And so I have high hopes for this, but I have heard that it kind of falls flat. So I'm hoping that I feel differently than those people who read it before me. I also want to read Ruthless Vows, which is romanticy. And that is by Rebecca Ross. It is the second book in the Divine Rivals, what is now a duology. I believe it's only a duology, but I'll read anything. Let me read Rebecca Ross's grocery list. Like, um, so I'm hoping there's more in this series, but I actually don't own this yet. And I think later this week I'm going to go pick it up because I want to read it in January. I'm debating doing a reread of Divine Rivals before I read Ruthless Vows, but I'm so obsessed with Divine Rivals, it's a 5-star read for me, that I don't feel like I need to reread it because I know everything there is to know. So I want to get Ruthless Vows and do that. I am kind of debating. Divine Rivals comes in a black hardcover, and like the book sleeve is black and the inside is black as well. However, the Ruthless Vows book sleeve, if you buy the regular version, is it, yeah, if you buy the regular version, it also has a black book sleeve. Um and just the irises are different colors. So I'm debating if I want to get that cover so it'll match this edition of Divine Rivals, but there is a Barnes& Noble special edition of Ruthless Vows that has a white book sleeve, which I think is really cute. So I have to decide if I want to do like the contrasting black and white, or if I want them to both have um the black, what are these things? I literally just said it 4 times. The black book sleeve. So drop a comment down below which one you think I should get and what version you think is cuter, especially if you know anybody who's like posted with the both of them together, in like one with the double black and one with the black and white. Tag me on Instagram at Books with Bloom so that I can see it and make a decision based on other people's photos. So yeah, I want to pick that up. I don't know how to describe Lucis Files without completely spoiling Divine Rivals, but just know that I'm so excited for it. And then if you've never read Divine Rivals, literally go get it right now and read it in January so that you can love on Ruthless Vows with the rest of us and just be like. And I must recommend, if you're going to read Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows, look up a fantasy soundtrack playlist on Spotify, on Apple Music, on whatever you use, because it elevates the vibes to a level that I previously did not think was possible. It is just, it literally, it, you're in the book when you have the fantasy soundtrack going behind you. So definitely do that. I also want to read this month The Housemaid's Secret, which is the second book in the Housemaid trilogy by Frida McFadden. Based on the ending of the first book, I believe she just gets hired by another woman to like be the housemaid there. And I would assume that it follows that family, but who knows. Tiny Upward Shove, which, oh my god, I literally didn't bring it over here. It's fine. I got this one from the library. This is by Melissa Chadburn, and I've talked about this when I did my library book haul, but basically it is a fantasy book. I think it might be magical realism, I'm not sure. But this woman dies and she is able to embody this like Filipino spirit of death or something like that. Or like, what is it called? Like almost like a spirit animal, from what I understand from reading the back of the book. I'm sure that there's context for this in the book, and so I apologize if this is completely wrong what I'm saying and like how I'm characterizing it. But She basically like embodies like this magical spirit or whatever, and she's able to see the memories of others, including the person who killed her. So I'm very interested in that one. And then I also have, again, from my library haul, In a New York Minute by Kate Spencer. This is about a woman who is like, I want to say she's like giving influencer. And then there's like a cute hot man who like saves her on the subway, and then they're like falling in love in a New York Minute. I'm not quite sure. Oh, I think what it is that like their personalities are polar opposite, except every time they hang out together, they're like obsessed. So we're gonna see how that one goes. The last two I picked up from the library in December, like early December. So I literally need to renew them because they're like due today or tomorrow. I don't know. Um, so yeah. What was the point of me saying that? Oh, the point of me saying all of that was that I need to renew them, so I'm probably gonna read. I'm in the middle of reading Things We Left Behind, but I'm probably gonna prioritize those two books over the rest of my TBR just because I have to get them back to the library. And with that, I literally can't shut up. That is my December wrap up and January TBR. Let me know if you guys read any of the books that I have spoken about today. Let me know what you thought of them. Um, I think that some of you guys like listen to me here, like, let me know what you thought, and like think that I'm kidding. I'm dead serious. There's somebody, and I can't remember their name, so I apologize. I'll put your like YouTube handle or whatever on the screen when I edit this later. Um, who was like giving me all of the lowdown on the books that she had already read that I was speaking about, and it was insanely helpful. And I love it. And I want you guys to let me know what you think of these books, even if you hated them. Um, so that I have a better idea of what I'm walking into, because as we all know, and because I said it a million times before, I'm the only person in my life who is as obsessed with books as I am. Like, I'm the only person who reads more than like one book casually every 3 months. So I need y'all's opinions because I don't have anyone else to talk to about this. Wait, I thought I just turned off my tiny mic. But I don't have anybody else to really talk to about any of these things. So please, please, please let me know what you thought. Let me know what you rated them. If you hated them, if you love them, if you think that I'm going to hate them based on the videos, based on you guys like watching my videos. If you think that I'm literally gonna hate these books, let me know so that I can avoid reading them. But I am so excited for this month. I am just like invigorated to read. I think it has to do with my book sprint making me like just jazzed about reading and wanting to read every single second of my life. I'm trying to get off of social media and focus more on reading. So I think that also has a lot to do with it. Watch me say all this and then like immediately fall into a book slump. That would literally suck. Please pray that doesn't happen. Um, but yeah, this year is gonna be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to make videos with you guys and just continue to build our little community here on YouTube. To my subscribers, you know I love you the absolute most. If you're on the fence about subscribing, literally do it. What do you have to lose? The answer is nothing. And what do you have to gain? Literally everything. Um, yeah, I'm kind of toying with the idea of maybe doing like a little book club. So let me know what you guys think about that. If you'd actually be interested, because obviously I'm not going to do it if there's only going to be like one or two of us. I'd like to get at least maybe like 10 or 15 people interested, because then I would like, we'd read the book. I don't know if I'd host like a Zoom or a Discord. I have to like get down on the details of all of that. But I definitely want to be able to have like more discussions and have a more interactive, like collaborative experience with you guys. Um, so with that being said, let me know what you think of maybe like having a book club and things like that. Follow me on Instagram at Books with Bloom. I'm way more active on Instagram stories than I am obviously on YouTube. I don't post that much, but I am on stories pretty much every day. Follow me on Goodreads because I try to be up to date with my like what I'm reading, my thoughts on the books, how I rated it, and provide like good book updates on there. And yeah, obviously subscribe, comment, like. Love you guys the absolute most. Make the other side of the heart. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.